Barking to all brigadiers out there that are listening to us, and welcome to another episode of the Bark Brigade podcast by Dogzilla Magazine.
Yes, welcome everyone. We are so glad you are joining us today.
So imagine serving a beautifully seared prime cut of steak to your dog. The aroma just fills the kitchen.
Oh, the dream scenario for any dog.
Right. You set the bowl down, and you are fully expecting the usual frantic tail wags and the immediate devouring of the food.
Naturally.
But instead, they just stare at it, and then they look up at you, and then they just turn around and walk away.
Yeah, and it is genuinely one of the most, uniquely anxiety-inducing moments you can experience as someone who loves a dog.
Oh, absolutely.
Because in that split second, the biological contract we have with our pets just seems to break down. Survival instinct dictates they should eat, right?
Exactly. They're wired for it.
So when they don't, our minds immediately spiral into these wild worst-case scenarios.
You start wondering, oh no, do they have some terminal illness? Or are they angry with me because I worked late?
Or maybe that incredibly expensive new bag of kibble is somehow defective.
Yes. It is just a universal panic, and that's exactly why today's deep dive is going to be so incredibly valuable for you.
It really is. We've got a lot of ground to cover.
We are using this incredibly thorough piece of research from Helen Thompson over at Dogzilla as our roadmap today.
It's a fantastic article.
It is. The title is, Why Won't My Dog Eat His Food? Most Common Reasons. And her work dissects the most common reasons why a dog refuses food. But more importantly, it gives us a physiological and psychological framework to figure out why.
And the why is so crucial, We have this terrible habit of anthropomorphizing our dogs. We project our own human motivations onto them.
Like thinking they're just being stubborn.
Exactly. We think, oh, he's just holding out for a piece of my sandwich, or she's just being difficult today.
Right, like they're culinary critics or something.
Yeah. But Helen's research forces us to step back and look at the canine machine itself. And the absolute first rule of troubleshooting that machine is what veterinarians call the vet first rule.
Meaning we have to rule out the organic medical causes before we even think about behavioral issues.
Precisely. Before we look at behavior, we absolutely have to look at biology. The article goes into medical reasons for a loss of appetite very deeply.
Which brings us to the very real, often invisible medical issues. The gut reaction for many people is to assume a stomach bug if a dog won't eat.
Sure, that's the most common assumption.
But the research points out something under the most common reasons why your dog stop-eat food heading that feels so obvious once you hear it, yet is so easily missed.
Dental pain.
Yes, dental pain. If a dog has a fractured carnassial tooth or severe periodontal disease, eating is simply agonizing.
It's excruciating.
But unlike a human who will clutch their jaw and complain, a dog will often just quietly opt out of the activity that causes the pain.
Yeah, that stoicism is deeply ingrained in their evolutionary history.
Wait, really? Why wouldn't they just whine to let us know it hurts?
Well, in a wild pack dynamic, or even just as a survival mechanism in nature, displaying outward signs of pain makes an animal a target.
Oh, it signals vulnerability.
Exactly. So a dog won't necessarily whimper when they chew. They will just avoid the bowl altogether.
That is so sad to think about.
It is. The nerve endings in a dog's tooth root are incredibly sensitive. So the mechanical pressure of crunching down on dry, extruded kibble when there's an exposed nerve or an abscessed gum is just agonizing.
So the pain signal traveling to the brain completely overrides the hunger signal.
Without a doubt. The biological drive to avoid pain is simply stronger than the biological drive to consume calories, at least in the short term.
It's like a human trying to eat a hard-shell taco when you have a massive, untreated cavity. I mean, no matter how good that taco smells, the pain wins out every single time.
That is a perfect analogy. And beyond the mouth, we obviously have to look at the gastrointestinal tract itself.
Right, the mechanical failures of the digestive system. Things like vomiting, diarrhea, constipation.
Precisely. Digestion is a highly resource-intensive process for the body. I mean, it requires massive blood flow to the stomach and intestines.
So if there's an issue there, the whole system just halts.
Basically, yes. If there is inflammation in the GI tract like gastroenteritis, the body's inflammatory response triggers a release of cytokines.
Cytokines?
Yeah, they are proteins that literally communicate with the brain's hypothalamus to suppress the appetite.
Oh, wow.
The body is essentially saying, look, the factory floor is flooded right now. Halt all incoming shipments until we fix the plumbing.
I love that. The factory floor is flooded. It's not that they aren't hungry, it's that their internal logistics system has issued a hard stop work order.
Exactly. And that connects perfectly to the different types of infections the research categorizes.
Mm.
Under the heading, Most Common Infections That Can Affect Dogs, the article breaks it down into bacterial, viral, and parasitic.
Let's unpack the mechanics of these because I think a lot of pet owners, we just lump them all together as getting sick.
We do, but they operate very differently.
So with the bacterial infection, say in the urinary tract or the intestines, why is food refusal sometimes the very first and occasionally the only early warning sign we pick up on?
It all comes back to energy allocation. When a bacterial pathogen enters the body, the immune system has to mount a massive defense.
Right, like generating a fever or producing white blood cells.
Yes, and creating antibodies. All of this requires a tremendous amount of metabolic energy.
So they literally don't have the energy to digest food.
Exactly. The body simply cannot afford to divert energy to breaking down and assimilating complex proteins and fats from a bowl of kibble. So the appetite is chemically suppressed to conserve energy for the immune system's war effort.
That makes total sense. And parasites operate a bit differently, right? I mean, things like hookworms or roundworms.
Very differently. They aren't necessarily triggering that massive acute immune fever, but they are physically stealing nutrients from the intestinal wall.
So the dog might actually eat more initially.
They often do. But eventually, the physical damage to the intestinal lining causes such severe inflammation that the gut stops functioning properly.
Leading to that same shutdown of the appetite we just talked about.
Right. The mucosal lining of the intestines gets compromised. But, perhaps the most fascinating biological mechanism the source brings up is the impact of viral infections.
Oh, specifically respiratory viruses, right?
Yes. To understand this, we have to look at how a dog actually experiences the world. A human's primary sense is vision, but a dog's is olfaction.
Their sense of smell, which is practically a superpower.
It really is.
They have something like, 300 million olfactory receptors compared to our measly 6 million?
Yes, and the part of their brain dedicated to analyzing smells is proportionally about 40 times larger than ours.
Wow.
And their nasal cavity has a specific structural feature called the olfactory recess.
What does that do?
Well, when they sniff, a portion of the air is diverted into this specialized chamber dedicated entirely to smelling, while the rest goes to the lungs for breathing.
Oh, so they separate the air.
Exactly. Now, appetite and olfaction are inextricably linked in the canine brain. If a respiratory virus causes congestion, mucus coats those millions of receptors.
So the air can't reach them.
Right. If a dog cannot smell their food, their brain does not register it as food.
It doesn't matter if it's the highest quality Wagyu beef.
Not at all. If the olfactory receptors can't bind to the odor molecules, it might as well be a bowl of flavorless cardboard to them.
That is wild. It's a total sensory disconnect. So, okay, let's say you've gone to the vet. They've checked the teeth, run the blood work, done the fecal float for parasites.
You've done your due diligence?
And the vet looks at you and says, good news, your dog is perfectly healthy physically.
The best news.
But you go home and they still won't eat.
Ah, yes.
Now we cross the threshold from biology into psychology. We move into the section behavioral reasons for a loss of appetite. We really have to look at their environment and their behavioral triggers.
This is where pet parenting becomes detective work. The research heavily emphasizes stress and anxiety as primary appetite suppressants.
And this isn't just some vague emotional concept, is it? It is a hardwired physiological response.
It is entirely physiological. It's the autonomic nervous system.
The fight or flight response.
Exactly. You have the sympathetic nervous system, which is the fight or flight accelerator, and then you have the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the rest and digest brake.
They act like a seesaw.
Right. They can't both be high at the same time. When a dog experiences an environmental stressor, maybe you just moved to a new house, or you brought a new puppy home, or even if there's just construction noise down the street, their brain perceives a threat.
And the hypothalamus triggers the release of adrenaline and cortisol.
Yes. Blood is immediately shunted away from the digestive organs and toward the skeletal muscles, the heart, and the lungs.
Getting ready to run.
Exactly. The pupils dilate. The dog is biologically prepped to either fight off a predator or run for its life.
So in that neurological state, digestion is considered a completely non-essential function.
The parasympathetic rest and digest system is totally suppressed. You literally cannot force an anxious dog to eat because their body is chemically blocking the process.
I think we can all relate to that as humans. If you are about to step on stage to give a presentation to 1,000 people and your heart is pounding and your palms are sweating,
You aren't going to want to sit down and eat a heavy lasagna.
no way. Your stomach is in knots. It's the exact same mechanism in our dogs. It's like when you just moved into a new apartment with boxes everywhere, the last thing you want is a heavy meal.
It's an identical stress response.
But what about when it's not acute panic? The research draws this really interesting distinction between a dog who is just bored with their food versus a dog who is inherently picky.
It's a crucial distinction, and the article addresses this under what to do if your dog won't eat. Let's tackle boredom first, which is often debated in veterinary circles, but the source explicitly validates the dog's need for dietary variety.
Wait, really? Are dogs really culinary critics getting bored with kibble? Or are we humans just projecting our own foodie tendencies onto them?
It's a fair question. We know dogs don't have the sheer volume of taste buds that humans do. We have around 9,000, and they have about 1,700.
So they aren't savoring the nuanced flavor profile of a complex sauce?
No, they aren't. However, they experience food profoundly through texture, temperature, and, of course, aroma.
And if you think about it, feeding a dog the exact same dry extruded kibble out of the exact same metal bowl for 3,000 consecutive meals is just a recipe for sensory deprivation.
Precisely. It leads to what we call palate fatigue. In behavioral terms, dogs naturally exhibit a degree of neophilia,
Neophilia.
a love for new things, including food, because in the wild, a varied diet ensures a wider profile of micronutrients.
Oh, that makes sense. So even though modern kibble is nutritionally complete, eating it relentlessly provides zero cognitive or sensory enrichment.
The dog simply loses interest. It's not that they aren't hungry, it's that the food has become environmental white noise.
So how does that differ from pickiness? Because I know owners who swear their dog is just a snob who refuses to eat anything but, hand-shredded chicken.
Pickiness is usually a learned behavioral feedback loop. Or sometimes it's a continuation of a deeply ingrained personality trait.
Like if a dog has been a cautious grazer since puppyhood.
Right, a sudden refusal to eat might just be an amplification of that neophobia, a fear of new things. But more often than not, pickiness is created by the owner.
The accidental training. I am definitely guilty of this. If my dog doesn't eat his dry kibble immediately, I panic. And within 5 minutes, I'm sprinkling cheese on it or stirring in some warm chicken broth.
Or opening a can of the really expensive wet food.
Guilty as charged.
And you have just taught your dog an incredibly valuable lesson in operant conditioning.
Oh, no.
The dog learns, hey, if I simply ignore these dry brown pebbles for 10 minutes, the giant hairless ape will magically produce a high-value culinary reward.
Okay, ouch. That is highly accurate.
You aren't fixing their appetite. You're negotiating with a hostage taker, and the dog is winning.
The dog is definitely winning. So how do we get back on track? If we've ruled out the medical issues and we realize we're dealing with a behavioral hurdle or palate fatigue, the source provides a really structured comeback trail.
It does. It has a whole section on how to get your dog back to their regular eating habits.
And the very first step in the tips to help your dog get back their regular eating habits, which I think is brilliant because it's so fundamental, is food quality control.
Yes. Checking the expiration date and the storage method. This is where human perception and canine perception wildly diverge.
Because we might open a bag of kibble that's been sitting in the pantry for 3 months and think it smells perfectly fine.
Exactly. But kibble relies on fats. They're often sprayed onto the outside of the kibble during the final stage of manufacturing to make it palatable and calorically dense.
And fat oxidizes.
It oxidizes rapidly when exposed to air, light, and heat. The lipid molecules break down, and the food goes rancid.
And because of a dog's incredible olfactory recess that we discussed earlier, they detect that lipid oxidation instantly.
Instantly. To us, it's a bowl of food. To them, it smells like toxic decay.
So their refusal to eat isn't stubbornness at all.
No, it's a highly evolved biological defense mechanism against consuming spoiled meat.
Wow. So store your kibble in an airtight container, preferably keeping it in the original bag inside the container to protect it from light and push the air out.
Yes, proper storage is key.
But what if the food is fresh and they still seem bored? The research suggests what we can call the wet food hack.
Yes, mixing in wet food or safely rotating flavors.
Why is wet food such a game changer for a bored dog?
2 main reasons.
Mm-hmm.
Moisture and temperature. Dry kibble usually has a moisture content of around 10%. Wet food is closer to 70 or 80%.
That's a huge difference.
It is. That moisture changes the entire mouthfeel and texture profile, providing instant sensory enrichment.
And temperature.
Well, if you slightly warm that wet food, you increase the kinetic energy of the odor molecules. They volatilize and become airborne much faster.
Which creates a significantly stronger aroma profile that hits those olfactory receptors and jumpstarts the appetite.
You got it.
But wait, how do we use wet food to break the boredom without accidentally stepping on the landmine of creating a picky eater? If we immediately switch to wet food the second they stop eating, aren't we just training them to hold out for the good stuff?
It's a great point. How do we break the hostage negotiation? This is where environmental engineering and immense psychological patience come into play.
The research advises feeding the dog in a quiet, low-traffic area.
Right. Trying to feed an anxious dog in a chaotic kitchen with kids running around and a TV blaring is impossible.
It's like a human trying to enjoy a relaxing dinner in the middle of a chaotic subway station at rush hour.
Nobody wants to eat there. You need a space where that parasympathetic rest and digest nervous system can safely activate without interruption.
So you create the safe space.
Exactly. You provide the enriched food, maybe a high-quality kibble mixed with a spoonful of warm, wet food. You put the bowl down, and then you practice patience.
The hardest part.
You leave it for 15 to 20 minutes. If the dog doesn't eat, you do not coax, you do not plead, you do not add cheese.
You just take it away.
You calmly pick the bowl up, put it in the fridge, and the dog gets nothing until the next scheduled mealtime.
That requires nerves of steel. It is so hard to pick up a full bowl when you just want them to eat.
It is incredibly difficult for the owner. But what you are doing is breaking the behavioral feedback loop. In psychology, we call this the extinction burst.
The extinction burst, what is that?
When you stop rewarding a behavior, in this case, the behavior of waiting for better food, the dog might actually double down and refuse food for a day, fully expecting you to cave.
They call your bluff.
Exactly. But a healthy dog will not starve itself. By calmly removing the food, you reestablish the boundary. You offer high-quality nutrition, but on a schedule.
Okay, so we have the behavioral side dialed in. Now, I want to pivot to the mechanics of actually changing a dog's diet, because Helen Thompson's research dedicates a massive amount of real estate to this.
Yes, the art of the switch.
We're looking at headings like, how often should you change your dog's food, when to change your dog's food, and how to change your dog's food, exactly when and how to execute it without causing a complete digestive meltdown.
The when is heavily dictated by life stages. A dog's nutritional requirements are not static at all. They are deeply tied to their developmental biology.
Right. The difference between a Great Dane puppy and a senior Chihuahua is astronomical.
It really is. Let's look at puppies. A growing puppy, especially a large breed, requires a very specific ratio of calcium to phosphorus in their diet.
Because of their bones.
Yes. If they get too much calcium, their bones grow too rapidly, leading to severe orthopedic issues later in life, like hip dysplasia. They also need higher fat and protein for brain and tissue development.
But if you feed that high-calorie, dense puppy formulation to a 7-year-old golden retriever whose daily exercise consists of a 20-minute walk and moving from the couch to the sunbeam on the rug.
You are going to end up with a morbidly obese dog very quickly.
Exactly.
Senior dogs typically experience a slowing metabolic rate. They need highly digestible proteins to maintain muscle mass without the excess calories.
And they often benefit from dietary additions, right? Like omega-3 fatty acids for cognitive support and glucosamine for joint health.
Absolutely. Transitioning a diet based on these biological milestones is a necessity, not a luxury.
And the other major trigger for a diet change highlighted in the text is allergies and sensitivities. The warning signs are usually dermatological or gastrointestinal.
Chronic ear infections, obsessive paw chewing, hot spots, or persistent loose stools.
How do those allergies actually work in a dog?
Food allergies in dogs usually develop over time. A dog's immune system mistakenly identifies a common protein, often chicken, beef, or dairy, as a hostile invader.
So it attacks the food.
Basically. The immune system produces IgE antibodies, which bind to mast cells in the skin and gut. When the dog eats that protein, the mast cells degranulate, releasing a massive flood of histamine.
And that histamine causes the intense itching and inflammation.
Exactly. So you have to switch the food to a novel protein, something they've never been exposed to, like venison or duck.
But here is the critical part, and the source emphasizes this heavily. The 7 to 10 day rule. You cannot just swap the kibble overnight.
No, you absolutely cannot.
I always explain this to friends using an analogy. Switching a dog's food overnight is like a human suddenly going from a strict vegan diet to eating nothing but heavy barbecue.
The digestive system is going to completely panic.
Yes. Imagine a dog's gut microbiome is like a highly specialized factory assembly line. For years, this factory has been perfectly tuned to process, say, chicken and brown rice.
The workers are the millions of specific bacteria in the gut.
Right. And they have the exact tools needed to break down those specific proteins and carbohydrates. If you suddenly dump a shipment of salmon and sweet potato onto that assembly line overnight, the workers panic.
They don't have the tools.
The machinery jams up.
That is a brilliant way to conceptualize it. The specific populations of bacteria in the canine gut, like the firmicutes and the bacteroidetes, they shift and adapt based on the macronutrient profile of the diet.
So when you introduce a radically new ingredient profile abruptly,
The existing bacteria cannot enzymatically digest it efficiently.
and what happens to all that undigested food?
Well, it passes into the large intestine, where it undergoes rapid, uncontrolled fermentation by the bacteria there.
Which produces gas.
A massive amount of gas, causing bloating and cramping. Furthermore, the undigested particles draw water into the colon through osmosis.
Osmotic diarrhea.
Exactly. It is explosive, it is incredibly uncomfortable for the dog, and it's a complete nightmare for the owner.
So the 7 to 10 day gradual transition is non-negotiable.
Mixing 25% new food with 75% old food for a few days, then 50-50 and so on. It acts as a training period for that factory assembly line.
It gives the microbiome time to repopulate and upregulate the specific enzymes needed to process the new diet smoothly.
Exactly.
Now, regarding the quality of the food you are switching to, the research makes a very specific point to call out AAFCO.
The Association of American Feed Control Officials.
Yes. The article states that finding food that meets their standards is essential, alongside finding options that list a specific meat source as the first ingredient and avoiding excessive fillers.
It is so important.
Let's break down the biology of why this matters so much. A dog's digestive tract is very different from ours, right?
Dramatically different. A human's digestive tract is long and designed for the slow, methodical extraction of nutrients from a highly varied diet of plants, complex carbohydrates, and some meat.
But a dog is a scavenging carnivore.
Right. Their gastrointestinal tract is relatively short, only about 3 to 6 times their body length. Compare that to an herbivore like a sheep, which is over 20 times its body length.
And a dog's stomach acid is intensely strong, isn't it?
Yes, their stomach pH can drop incredibly low. It's designed to break down dense animal proteins and bone and to neutralize harmful bacteria found in scavenged meat.
So because the tract is short, food moves through it quickly.
They just do not have the anatomical setup to slowly ferment and break down massive quantities of complex fibrous carbohydrates.
Which perfectly explains the problem with fillers. What happens if a pet parent ignores the meat as a first ingredient rule and buys filler-heavy food?
Well, if an owner buys a cheap kibble where the first 3 ingredients are corn, wheat, and soy byproducts, they aren't actually nourishing the dog.
Because those ingredients require a long fermentation process that a dog simply doesn't possess.
Right, so those cheap fillers basically just speed run through the short digestive tract without being fully absorbed.
So you end up with the dog who is technically consuming enough calories but is chronically undernourished.
Precisely. They will have dull coats, lethargy, and they will produce massive frequent stools because the bulk of the food is just passing right through his waist.
That makes so much sense. When the research says look for a specific meat source like chicken, rather than just generic meat meal as the first ingredient, it's ensuring the diet aligns with the rapid processing, protein-heavy biological design of the canine gut.
And AAFCO certification ensures that, at a minimum, the fundamental amino acids, vitamins, and minerals required for survival are actually present in the correct ratios.
Okay, so we have a deep understanding of the biology, the psychology, and the mechanics of the transition. Let's move into what I want to call the philosophical lightning round of this deep dive.
So too.
The Dogzilla Guide features a really nuanced Q&A section. The headings are common questions about changing the dog food, top Q&A for changing your dog food, and prioritizing your dog's dietary health.
There's a lot of great insight there.
There is, and it addresses a seeming contradiction that I think trips up a lot of pet parents.
Let me guess. The balance between variety and stability.
Exactly. You read my mind. Earlier, we discussed how important it is to prevent palate fatigue and boredom by adding variety.
Right, keeping it interesting.
But then, in the Q&A section, the text explicitly says, Regular dietary changes are generally not necessary unless specific health issues or life stage changes dictate it.
It sounds contradictory.
It does. How does a pet parent reconcile that? Keep it interesting, but don't change it.
It's a fantastic observation, and the answer lies in the difference between macronutrition and microenrichment.
Macro versus micro.
Okay, the base diet, the primary kibble or wet food that provides 90% of their daily caloric and nutritional needs, provides the stability that the gut microbiome needs to function flawlessly.
So you don't want to overhaul that base every month because you'll just be putting the dog through a constant cycle of enzymatic stress.
Right, you don't want to keep rebuilding the factory assembly line.
But preventing boredom is achieved through microenrichment.
Exactly. You keep the stable base, but you rotate the toppers. One day you add a spoonful of pure pumpkin puree, which is great for fiber.
Well, that sounds easy.
The next day, maybe a splash of unseasoned bone broth for moisture and collagen. Another day, some steamed green beans or a sardine packed in water.
So you are drastically altering the sensory experience, the smell, the texture, the taste, without destabilizing the nutritional foundation.
Baseline stability, variable enrichment.
I love that framework. Baseline stability, variable enrichment. The Q&A also touches on seasonal dietary changes. It notes that while not strictly necessary for every dog, some owners do adjust food based on the time of year.
Yeah, the biological need for this varies wildly depending on the dog's lifestyle.
Absolutely. Thermoregulation burns calories, right?
Hey, certainly does. If you have a working dog like a husky pulling a sled, or a livestock guardian dog living outside in freezing temperatures, their caloric requirements skyrocket in the winter simply to maintain their core body temperature.
So they need significantly more fat and protein during those months.
Yes, to fuel the furnace, basically.
But if my French bulldog's biggest winter exertion is walking from the heated living room to the slightly cooler kitchen,
Then keeping their diet the same, or even slightly reducing calories if they're less active outdoors during the winter, is the biologically appropriate move.
okay, so changing a house dog's diet seasonally is usually overkill.
Yes, but it demonstrates how deeply some owners engage with their dog's environmental reality.
And speaking of deep engagement, the research concludes its core section with a really empowering pivot. It heavily emphasizes the vet partnership.
Yes, using your veterinarian not just for emergencies, but as a proactive nutritional consultant.
And then it gently encourages owners to explore veterinary-approved homemade recipes. But wait, is cooking homemade meals for a dog a realistic expectation for the average busy pet parent, or is it just for the absolute overachievers?
It's a fair pushback, but really it's a wonderful shift in perspective. For decades, the pet food industry has conditioned owners to be passive consumers.
Just buy the bag, pour it in the bowl, and don't think about it.
Right. But by encouraging vet-approved homemade options, even just as occasional meals or treats, the source invites the owner to become an active participant in their dog's culinary health.
It definitely takes more effort. You have to be incredibly precise balancing calcium and trace minerals if you are cooking all their meals.
Absolutely, you need a veterinary nutritionist for a full homemade diet.
But even just making healthy, single-ingredient treats at home is an incredible bonding experience.
It really is.
So that covers the core methodology of Helen Thompson's research. But as we promised our listeners at the top of the show, we are not stopping there.
No, we have a lot more to explore.
Because if you actually look at the Dogazilla platform where this article lives, a platform that was recently shortlisted and awarded Pet Products and Services Awards by LUX Life magazine, you realize this article is just one star in a massive galaxy of canine science and culture.
The sheer volume of resources flanking this single article is staggering. It is an entire ecosystem designed to decode the canine experience.
It really is. It's like walking into a massive multi-story library. But the librarian is an extremely enthusiastic golden retriever who just keeps dropping more and more fascinating topics into your lap.
I love that image.
We have to explore some of this extended Dogazilla universe because it provides such vital context for how far our understanding of dogs has come.
I completely agree. Let's start with the technological integration. Right alongside the nutritional advice, the platform features a sponsored heading for an all-in-one pet GPS and health tracker.
And it says free to subscribe? That's amazing.
And right next to that, a virtual classroom for dog training. The evolution of dog training from basic obedience to virtual cognitive enrichment is phenomenal.
It is. The text points out that this virtual classroom uses expert techniques and novel exercises to expand the learning curves of both the dog and the human.
It's a mutual learning process.
It's not just about teaching a dog to sit or stay anymore. It's about neuroplasticity. It's about giving a dog a job to do, which we know reduces anxiety, tying right back to our earlier discussion about stress-induced appetite loss.
A mentally stimulated dog is a hungrier, healthier dog.
Absolutely. And then there is the cultural and social dimension of the platform. Under the headings Dog Boards and Pins, Instagram Dog Life, and TikTok Dog Community, they feature some amazing content.
Especially a dog named Tao.
Yes, Tao the Black Labrador. At Taodoggo, the platform chronicles his entire life.
It's so wholesome.
Their articles titled Taodoggo Killing a Stick, his 7th birthday celebration, his adventures swimming in the river.
And hilariously, a piece stating that Tao has a desire to become human, so he got a job at the Dogazilla platform.
It's brilliant, lighthearted storytelling. But it taps into something deeper, right? The parasocial relationships we form with animals online.
It really does. It normalizes treating dogs as individual personalities with their own narratives.
But where the platform truly justifies its LUX Life Award is in the sheer breadth of its editorial content. They categorize everything so meticulously under trending dog topics, most popular dog topics, and Dogazine top topics.
And the Top Dog Guides, Advice, and Tips section.
Just looking at the menus, you see subcategories spanning dog lifestyle, dog health, dog behavior, dog training guides, dog adventures, dog grooming topics, dog food and treats.
And it keeps going. Dog breeds, stray dog stories, dog news and discovery, dog sport topics.
Dog research and science, dog myths and tales, daily doggos, train room, doggo shop, and veterinary advices. It is exhaustive.
Let's pull on a few of these threads from the editorial picks and latest articles, because some of these are genuinely mind-blowing.
Let's look at the science and breed-specific stuff. They have articles on lazy dog breeds. Perfect couch potato dogs, which contrasts wildly with aquatic dogs, top breeds that reign the waves.
The biology behind aquatic breeds is fascinating. If you look at a breed like the Newfoundland or the Portuguese water dog, you aren't just looking at a dog that likes water.
What are we looking at?
You are looking at hundreds of years of selective breeding that has resulted in deep physiological adaptations. Well, they have webbed toes for propulsion, and a double coat, where the oily outer layer is literally water-resistant, providing buoyancy and thermal insulation in freezing water.
Wow, so it's a completely different biological machine than, say, a greyhound.
Entirely different.
And the science gets even deeper. The platform features articles on fastest dogs on the planet and most powerful dog jaws, but then pivots to cutting-edge genetics and neurobiology.
Things like dog breed recognition and cognition mystery.
And can dogs have autism? What does science says? And incredibly, dog cloning as intriguing opportunity.
Dog cloning is a frontier that brings up massive bioethical and scientific questions. We know it's possible. The first cloned dog, Snuppy, was created in South Korea back in 2005.
Right.
But an article exploring it as an intriguing opportunity today touches on how humans grieve, our desire to bypass mortality, and the complex reality that a cloned dog might share the exact DNA of your beloved pet, but their personality is shaped by epigenetics and environment.
They will not be the same dog.
No, they won't. It is a heavy, fascinating topic to place right next to advice on how to transition kibble.
It shows an immense respect for the intellect of the pet parent. They aren't talking down to the reader at all.
Not in the slightest.
They're also exploring the deep historical roots of our bond with dogs. There are articles on ancient Egyptian dogs and breeds beyond Egypt.
And dog myths in Slavic folklore. Spirit hounds and shapeshifters.
Plus the black dog beliefs, myths, and symbolism.
The historical context is so vital. Our relationship with dogs didn't start with buying bags of food at a pet store.
No, it goes back millennia.
In ancient Egypt, dogs were associated with Anubis, the guide to the underworld. They were mummified and buried with their owners to ensure safe passage in the afterlife.
And in Slavic folklore.
In Slavic folklore, dogs were often seen as liminal creatures, able to see spirits and protect the homestead from supernatural forces.
That is so cool.
Understanding that mythological reverence helps explain why we are so deeply emotionally invested in their well-being today. It is a bond forged over thousands of years.
Okay, I want to spend some time on my absolute favorite section of this platform. It's a massive list of behavioral articles filed under Answers to Dog Questions.
Oh, this section is pure gold.
These are the exact questions every dog owner has Googled in a slight panic at 2 in the morning. Let's break the biology behind some of these down. First up, why zoomies are important for your dog. What is a zoomie, scientifically speaking?
Well, in the veterinary behavior world, zoomies are called FRAPs, frenetic random activity periods,
Frenetic random activity periods. I love that.
Biologically, they are an explosive release of pent-up energy, often occurring after a period of restraint like a bath or after waking up.
It's just pure adrenaline.
Yes, it is a sudden spike in adrenaline, resulting in a rapid, repetitive loop of running. It's completely natural, and it's a sign of a happy, physically capable dog discharging kinetic energy.
What about this one? Why is my dog obsessively licking his butt? I think people assume it's just a gross dog habit, but it's usually biological, right?
Almost always. While it could be parasites like tapeworms, it is very frequently related to the anal glands.
The dreaded anal glands.
Yes. Dogs have two small sacs on either side of their anus that secrete a highly pungent fluid used for scent marking. If those sacs become impacted or infected, the pressure is incredibly uncomfortable.
So they lick obsessively to try and relieve the pressure.
Exactly. It's a medical issue masquerading as a quirky behavior.
Then we have the classic head tilt. Why dogs tilt their heads, expressing curiosity.
The head tilt is brilliant. There are two leading theories here. The first is auditory. A dog's external ear flap, the pinna, helps funnel sound.
So by tilting their head, they are adjusting the acoustic localization of a sound wave.
Exactly, trying to pinpoint the exact source and pitch, especially when we use a high-pitched baby voice.
The second theory.
The second theory is visual. A dog's muzzle can actually obstruct their forward vision. Tilting the head shifts the muzzle out of the way, allowing them to clearly see the lower half of our faces.
Which is where we display the micro-expressions they rely on to read our emotions.
Precisely.
Wow, they are literally shifting their hardware to read us better. That is incredible. What about leaning? The article, Why Dogs Lean on People, Emotional Interrupters.
Leaning is a physical manifestation of seeking security and offering support. Dogs are tactile creatures. Leaning releases oxytocin in their brains and in ours.
The love hormone.
Yes, it lowers their heart rate. They often do it when they're slightly nervous and seeking reassurance, or conversely, when they sense their owner is distressed and they are offering their physical presence as a grounding mechanism.
That is so sweet. And we have Why Do Dogs Sigh? The Science and Soulful Reasons.
A sigh is a fascinating physiological reset. If a dog's eyes are half closed when they sigh, it is a physical action that signals the transition from the active sympathetic nervous system to the resting parasympathetic system.
It is a literal exhalation of tension.
However, if their eyes are wide open and they sigh, it's often an expression of mild frustration.
Like when you haven't shared your sandwich with them.
I know that wide-eyed sigh very well.
We all do. And finally, why do dogs sniff butts? The scent identity card. We talked about their incredible olfactory system earlier. This is basically them reading each other's resumes, isn't it?
Precisely. Remember those anal glands we just mentioned? The fluid they secrete is utterly unique to each dog.
It contains a wealth of chemical information.
Yes, about the dog's diet, immune system status, gender, and emotional state. When dogs sniff each other's rear ends, they are conducting a highly sophisticated biochemical exchange of information.
It is their version of a handshake and a background check all rolled into one.
Exactly right.
It really is an entire universe of knowledge on that site. I mean, they cover everything. Dog diseases topics, dog protection advice, dog store reviews, healthy doggos lifestyle, most asked dog questions.
They really leave no stone unturned.
They even cover things like alcohol poisoning in dogs, dog theft prevention, and search and rescue dogs. It's an ecosystem that covers every conceivable aspect of sharing your life with a canine.
And returning to our primary mission today, the dog who refuses to eat. Exploring this vast array of topics reinforces a singular, vital truth.
Which is?
A dog is a profoundly complex, sentient organism. They have rich psychological lives, intricate biological systems, and a deep evolutionary history. When they stop eating, they aren't trying to annoy us. It is never just a simple act of defiance.
So as we bring this massive deep dive to a close, what is the ultimate takeaway for the listener who might be staring at a full bowl of untouched kibble right now? How should they reframe that experience?
I would leave you with this thought. A dog's behavior is their only language. When a dog refuses to eat, they are communicating with you in the most urgent way they know how.
Because they lack the vocal cords to say, my back molar is fractured.
Or, the neighborhood fireworks terrified me. Or, the lipid profile of this kibble has oxidized. By forcing ourselves to be methodical, by diligently ruling out the hidden infections, by analyzing the stressors in their environment, by meticulously managing the quality of their food and the pace of their dietary transitions, we're doing more than just figuring out how to get calories into their bodies.
We are actively learning to fluently speak dog.
Yes, we are elevating our role from mere caretakers who provide food to true partners in their physical and emotional well-being.
Learning to speak dog, I think that is a beautiful pursuit. It takes profound patience, keen observation, and it relies heavily on the kind of rigorous, compassionate research we unpacked today from Dogazilla.
It really does.
Thank you for listening, dear Brigadiers, and if you have any questions, visit the source article on Dogazilla magazine at dogazilla.com. That was all for this episode, and until next time, bye to all listeners of the Bark Brigade podcast.